Table Talk is not your typical D&D TTRPG podcast. We are not here to run you through our whole campaign.
We're here to talk about everything else in the space of tabletop roleplay.
I'm your host, Alejandra Wilhelm.
And I'm also your host, Mariah Gresham.
And we're your tabletop roleplay girlies. Alrighty, and we are live with another episode of Table Talk. We've got a wonderful, wonderful guest with us today, someone I've been hounding and tracking, and I've had you in my sights on Threads for quite a minute now, and I'm so happy to have you. Want to give us a little introduction to yourself, as well as where people can find you?
Hey, great to be here. I'm Aiden. AKA the Dungeon Maestro. You guys might know me, from my early days, doing TTRPG and, Critical Role music on YouTube. But, last couple of years, especially since COVID hit, been mostly on TikTok, barely touched Instagram, and then Threads came around, and then now I am there, and I have almost completely abandoned my TikTok because I suck at social media.
I'm a homeowner on Threads.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Threads just feels easier.
It does. I mean, I used to be big on, into Twitter, but, dude, it's a hellscape. It got hard. It got hard. Yeah, it is a hellscape in there. It got, oh man, it was just, I'm getting PTSD.
Yeah, you non-flashbacks. Yeah, Threads has a little bit of a weird old school Tumblr vibe to me, where it's the sense of community and the fact that you can kind of just get in there and scream weird shit into the void and just that vibe
and the
of internet. Yeah.
Oh yeah. This was 2000 and this was 2004, 2005 Twitter. And then fully 2011 to 2016 Tumblr is what Threads feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good vibe. I love it here.
It is.
Yeah. I was really excited to have you on specifically because one, your music is beautiful. And two, I especially am a music hoe when it comes to our tabletop games. The amount of playlists that I have on Spotify are sinful
obscene.
And abhorrent.
Yeah.
Obscene.
Ale and I do be a core pillar of the support of Spotify.
You're barking up the wrong tree. Y'all know I am a DJ, so I have an obscene amount of music too. So I feel you.
I like it because I was you're gonna know where I'm coming from.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for our Strixhaven game alone, for my character, I think Ale and I have 4 combined playlists that in fairness, I have made and then added Ale to, just in case you ever, and I'll periodically tag her in and be I've made a new section that's emotionally damaging.
Nice.
Go give it
Yeah, you're this is a playlist for a very specific vibe of this character, and then I have several other ones. Yeah, on top of being a dungeon master, and I maladaptive daydream like a motherfucker.
Oh, same, yeah.
And so when I'm listening, I do a lot of my session prep and planning to music because that is how I visualize scenes and things develop in my brain that way. So when I'm driving in the car, that is me cheating the DM prep of our game because I can just hard shift myself into that mode if I put on a very specific playlist. So right now we're entering a ball arc for our little Nepo baby Noble character. So I have so many different ball playlists that I listen to for very specific points of development in her story.
Heck yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
What are you listening to for that?
Oh my God.
For that ball inspiration.
Well, I'm also very big on classical music. I mean, duh, it's a ball. But
what? No way.
No, crazy. But I got hard shifted into. I'm really bad at remembering artists. and I'm the worst person about remembering artists, actors, all of that. And people were like, how do you not know this name? I'm like, I will know it if I see the person or if I listen to the song.
Right.
But if
Gun
you
to my
ask
head,
me,
have I listened to the song a million times? Would I know who wrote it? No.
Yeah, like name
And
like
that's just who I
5
am.
directors
But let me
that
see.
I love.
I'm gonna pull up one of these ball playlists just to like spout some names.
Nice.
Bloodstone Ball.
Nice. Yeah,
Perfect.
for sure. No, we stand good ball music.
Yeah, Robin Applevist or something, Carlos Viola. Peter Gundry was a big one that I found that I was like, no.
He's fantastic, yeah.
Nick Murray. Everything from Nick Murray right now is exactly the vibe for what I'm looking for.
Heck yeah.
I also love a lot of like violin music from Joel Sonny. He does a lot of really good covers of like more modern songs into like violin, and I'm like, it's obsessed. But yeah, it's very like dark court energy.
Right.
How do you spell Murray?
Is Murray, Murray.
I was so far from the light with that one.
Yeah.
There we go.
So Nick Murray was the music that I played us for that introductory scene. Again, that tone of like I maladaptive daydream to these songs, and then that's how I figure out how I'm going to articulate certain scenes. So listening to those songs, let me see which ones specifically. They're in order. So Midnight Masquerade, beautiful song. It's one that I kind of painted a scene of them getting on these, because it's our city is like a coastal city. And then the Bloodstone Island is in the bay. And so they got on these little gondolas at the dock, these beautiful like white ivory gondolas, and they sailed over to the island. And so they go through this like spire of like cumulus cloud looking mist. And as they like broached on the other side, the whole like Bloodstone Isle like opens up to them. And if you look up, it's a celestial themed ball. So it's very like you are in the heavens vibes. And so you see the Bloodstone Island, the gondolas get lifted via like magical servants. And so you're kind of all like whisked around, and then like you land at the dock. And if you look up, it was like right at, I think like high noon or something. So the sun is directly above, and it's like God rays going all the way down. And it was just like that is the shit that I envisioned when I listened to that song. And I was like, yes, perfect. I've crafted my scene. Like, I think the other one is called Golden Chalice. And so Bloodstone Island is literally an island on, it's made of bloodstone. It's a huge deposit of bloodstone. And so they have these bloodstone constructs that like act as guards, but also are decorative statues all over the place. And there were these 2 huge ones that basically did like a fight as like an opening ceremony entertainment that ended in a dance. It went from fight to dance to like their embrace, and then they solidify as statues again. It was great. So I did that whole fight scene to Golden Chalice.
It was really funny because we're like at this very long table, and like it's beautiful, but also just like as hunks of bloodstone rubble like fall very near all these nobles. It's just like it was really funny because Ollie would describe like some people knew this was gonna happen, and so they were very poised and like, oh my, like I mean, we know it's not gonna hit us, and some people were flinching like what the actual hell is happening.
Heck yeah.
It was so good.
That's amazing.
But like for me, music has always played such a huge part in not just the way that I construct my scenes, but even whenever like I've been a player, and obviously like if I've played a bard, I am not a singer. I will definitely state that publicly, that my voice sounds like a dying cat in an alley. So when I play bards, I'm like, you're not gonna get me singing at the table. I'm so sorry. I'm doing my self-service and everybody else around me. But I do make little playlists, and so like I used to have this little Warforged bard, and it was kind of a mix of I think Corbus on TikTok did a video about like an EDM bass Canon Warforged.
I was about to say, I was like, you dropping that bass? You dropping that bass mid-session?
I took a little bit of that, but I wanted it to be a little more like graceful, a little, and so I very much took the inspiration from like Lindsey Sterling, because it's that blend of like EDM, but still very like musical and like pretty to me. So then that was very much the energy that I brought to that character. And so I would have little playlists, and I had playlists for like when we were in combat, and I would just start playing that as we were like in combat, or if there were really important scenes where she would be playing music, I would play whatever song was relevant to that scene. Or I had songs that specifically were for my other players, like songs that in my mind she would have done to basically tell those individual players' story.
Nice.
Yeah, and that campaign was also cool because like I'll say, for lack of a better term, bosses had like, because it was a Ravenloft campaign, so like all the Dreadlords and stuff, they had their own themes. And so particularly like Strahd, who has a penchant for just popping up surprisingly for a visit, we would just be doing something, and then you would hear Strahd's theme, and it's like, oh no. It's that very video game-esque moment where it's like, why is the music changed?
Why is the boss music happening right now?
Why can't I open my map? Like, what's going on? It was very much that mood.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. That's the reaction I strive for every time I compose something for somebody, is to, insert that, what you're describing as a leitmotif, right? Right. And just having that level of recognition in, whether it's my players or somebody else's players or, whatever, right? Just that moment of recognition, like I strive for that every single time. It's such a good feeling on both sides, right?
Yeah. And also like the thing, because like we've been like, Ollie and I have kind of both been plotting out and working on writing out like a horror podcast, of which like I have my little kind of how Ollie has her council of DMs. Like I now have a council of just like horror loving folks that have unhinged ideas, of which like Ollie, our editor Kay, and our friend Oak, and like other people are in there actually with Kate from Kate the Great as well. And so I've been like hyper fixating a lot on sound design and those things, and in things like Magnus, where it's very subtle and how the effect of music and soundscapes and stuff can almost be unconscious. Of like putting you at ease or setting you on edge or something. It's like, does any of that, how much of that goes into when you're composing, or like how do you interweave that like psychological influence you want to have?
Every single time.
Yeah. It's the good
especially in horror, but honestly I do it for everything. Horror, we'll start with horror because, you mentioned it. It's also easy in for that conversation. But whenever I compose horror, even especially if it's like sort of like creepy build up music, right? Or, like, for example, the party is just, wandering through the halls of Castle Ravenloft, moonlight coming in through the windows, but there's like nothing, right? Perception checks are decent, still nothing.
Yeah.
That kind of music. Yes, I will be doing a lot of like subliminal shit, in the music. We'll start with the obvious, and that is, I will play with frequencies that you can't hear.
Yes. I love that stuff.
So, if you're playing like, even online, but especially if you're playing in person and your audio setup is pretty damn good, I like to play with frequencies where you can like feel them instead of hearing them. So like really low bass rumbles, right in the sort of like 20, 30 hertz range.
It's like your dog starts having a reaction in the corner, and it's like, why are we both having this experience? What are you hearing?
Yes, exactly. Honestly, legit though, because I use my dog as like as a guinea pig, pretty much. Like if he reacts to the scary shit, then like I know it's scary. But and also like really high pitched stuff, that maybe only a child could pick up, but or some of the younger people in the TTRPG space might pick up, but some of the older ones might not. So it's kind of like subliminal, musically splitting the party, where half your table is like, oh my god, I'm so terrified, and the other half is just like, what? Like, it's fine, right? And sowing that discord in there. So yes, like on a subliminal level, I'll do that. But also like musically as well, there's a lot of ways you can kind of, insert those little nuggets of, recognition, or just build that tension. I am classically trained, so I, hearken a lot to, sort of the tried and true methods that have worked, a lot in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the most effective things have been to use the leitmotifs, but not in that sort of like cheesy, Wagner, Stravinsky, Shostakovich kind of like,
the where it's more overt, like subtly use it. Yeah,
exactly. So instead of being like overtly like, oh, here's the leitmotif again, we're in this scene, that scene, blah 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 blah. Like, we pull a John Williams, or we pull a Prokofiev, or, and where you might have heard like, for example, we'll stick with like Strahd, for example. Maybe the first time you experience Strahd's theme in, say, my game might be a piano, like little riff, just happening.
Like the chord progression, or like the skeleton of it.
Yeah, something like that.
And it builds from there.
Yeah. Well, no. So that'll end eventually. The next time you see Strahd, or hear about Strahd, via rumors, or, you're talking to its townsfolk, or you're facing one of his, his minions. It might not be the piano again. It might be like the horns, or the trumpet with a mute on. And to make it even creepier, maybe, you're finding like you're finding about like the dark ones, or you're finding out about, like you found one of his pieces of writing or something, right? And instead of giving you the motif as is on a different instrument, I might invert it.
Yeah.
Reverse it. I might split it in half and put the first half in the second half. But there's still that level of familiarity, because your brain has now acclimated to
started associating that with
it's
exactly.
the same notes. They're just presented differently.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I love doing stuff like
That's
that.
Cool.
With all my characters, basically. Not just the BBG. And I love doing it with player characters as well, because like, a character can have a theme. Usually if it's a player character, it's like somewhat heroic, if not tragic. But then I'll play around with it and maybe like turn it, if it's like originally written like minor key or like a certain mode, then I might switch it to like major key or a different mode, right?
Yeah.
For, to accommodate the different moments that they're going to have. But also like, I historically have played in a lot of games with a lot of like quote unquote former edgelords. And so sometimes they still fall into some of their old habits, and but have a
edgelords sometimes.
Yeah, recovering edgelords. Okay. Yes. Yeah. We're edgelords anonymous. Hi, my name is Dark Urge. Hi, Dark Urge.
Oh my god, I need a Dark Urge anonymous shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah. So a lot of times, not so much now, but like in the beginning, there were a lot of times where the DM or GM has quote unquote confiscated PCs because they were just not acting in the favor of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But then just having the music ready for that change, for that turn was, it really drove it home.
Or like if you lose a character, so it's like if it was a heroic character that had something that was in a very bright major key, and then that character did become property of the DM, and then you just start hearing either an inverse or, because the inverse thing is cool because there's a weird subliminal like call and response aspect of that, especially when you talk about like Strahd and his like fighters or whatever. It's like them repeating that same sequence of notes back. I was a band kid, so I'm gonna fully like
hell yeah
go way too deep into this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And what was I saying? But like, yeah, when you
call and response,
the call and response, and then going back to like if a DM takes that character and you hear a warped version of their theme, and it's like, oh no,
how unsettling that can be.
Oh yeah,
yep,
oh yeah. Or like if an NPC dies, and then suddenly like several sessions later you hear that theme again.
Yep.
Wow. Oh no.
That's my favorite moment to pull. And like it might even be like a tangential conversation with a different NPC, but like I just have like the theme very subtly playing in the background,
just lightly,
and it's just like I could see the confusion in my players, and I'm just like,
yeah, I bet that's incredibly. I can think of it as like what you were mentioning about like that same theme but being changed and presented in different ways. I can think of like a lot of situations in video games where they do that. Like the most recent would be like Baldur's Gate. Like I can think of like Raphael's theme, and then you know his ultimately how it builds into like that final battle, and now it's like fully orchestrated, fully you know, the whole thing. And it's like it's the same one that you've been hearing in interactions with him, just in different ways.
Yep. That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
It's good shit.
Okay, so everyone hearing this podcast right now is a composer. You know how to do it. Just
you've now become a composer. You've been honorarily knighted by Aiden, and that's really the only authority you need.
I've also been playing a lot of Hollow Knight, and Hollow Knight's score is absolutely beautiful.
Amazing. 100%.
Like it is up there with like some of the Bloodborne like score for me as far as like my favorite scores in games. It's so good. And it does, especially in a game where like subtle and atmospheric storytelling is everything, which is a lot of how I like to do things anyway, especially with things like horror. It's just so good when it's done right.
Yeah. I think one of my favorites is and again I'm a platinum member Dragon Age girly, but Solas's theme, and then if anyone's ever played like the Trespasser DLC, like that is a theme that is relevant to him in the base game. And then that final like battle to get to Solus and the way that song builds and was orchestrated, when I tell you, like that is one of those moments that I wish I could go back and experience again for the first time, because that music gave me full body chills and like overwhelmed me with so much emotion. Like I just remembered listening to that music as I was like playing out the scene, and I was like, there was so much. I also experienced music, I feel like, more than other people, maybe because of my maladaptive daydreaming bullshit, but like I remember being so overwhelmed by like how beautiful that and like tragic that music was in accompaniment with that scene. It was everything to me.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of like of maladaptive daydreaming, because I've had this thought as well as far as like the music provoking images, and I was like, where the line between like maladaptive daydreaming to music and something like synesthesia, where like you see sounds as you interpret them as colors and things, or you hear words and then you interpret them as colors. I wonder where the line and the sliding scale of that is. That'd be an interesting.
I don't think there's a line. I think it is a sliding scale.
Most things are now.
It's a spectrum, like most things.
Yeah. Especially in like modern.
Obviously, as someone who doesn't have like diagnosed synesthesia, can't authoritatively say anything about it, but
nor can I. But yeah, it is something I've casually wondered about for years.
That's it. I do know some people that have it, and it's like,
it's different. It's a different level.
It's different per person. It's very, obviously it's a neurological thing as well as a sort of like social thing as well. So it's very context based too. So I don't think there's a line. I mean, who knows? Maybe people with very vivid imaginations have some level of synesthesia too. Maybe not. It might be a totally other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotta be something, because I truly do just like go somewhere inside of myself, and I'm like, I experience songs as like either music videos or full plays or whatever. Like that's all going on in my brain. It's that same degree of like when you're reading and you can visualize all of it so clearly, and then like when you get burst out of that moment, you're like, oh shit, I'm just looking at paper.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. When you're reading, obviously you mentioned, you're visualizing. Do any of y'all hear a voice in your head reading out the words too?
Sometimes, yes. If I have like,
dope.
If I have that's not like psychosis. You're fine. But like,
oh no, no. I feel fine, but great.
It is
Glad I'm not alone.
Like I'm gonna throw it out, and hopefully someone agrees with me and doesn't. Like not all the time, and definitely there is a definite aspect to like music and books and things where they have certain triggers that can help flip you into a flow state, whether it's like listening to music to write, or you go into a book and there's a point of immersion where you're kind of pulled into it either by the ritual of the actions or the whatever like sounds you're experiencing, or what, like it can be a million different things that sort of funnel you into that. But yes, if especially with like longer books or series or something like that, or books where I feel like I have a stronger idea of who the characters are, yes. And certainly like when I'm writing and when I'm working through scenes in my head, yes. That's like watching a play.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't ever experience the voice reading to me. I feel like I go through a state of like I've opened the book and I am like logically like my eyes are passing over words and my brain is processing them as I go. And then at some point that switch flips and now I'm just like seeing the scene and I've stopped like perceiving words in front of my face, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then like I'll randomly get burst out of it, like if my mom calls for me or some shit, and I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah. My wife is the exact same way. Like she does not hear a voice at all, and like it's just all like processed, and like internally visualized, which kind of explains why like she also experiences music.
In that same
way. Like she experiences it very deeply and very like, I don't want to say visceral, but like, in that kind of like, in kind of that way where it's like,
it's a
like
tangible, like
body.
full
It's
body
a tangible
experience.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So yeah, that's interesting. I latched onto that after you brought it up.
Yeah, I do that shit a lot in the car because like it's like two different parts of my brain working at the same time. So like it's why I love driving for long periods of time, because I'm like, I'm about to get so much entertainment in the next 3 hours on my way to Austin.
Listen, I love how do I phrase this? Like kind of on the other side of the coin. I hate driving, the act of driving. I love sitting in a car for a long ass time.
Yeah.
But also, whenever I'm in a car, just sitting in the car, right? In the passenger seat or in the back, right? There's a social expectation of me, and I hate that too. I just want to sit in the car and just tune out, right?
Yeah, let my brain go.
Exactly. So plane ride are my thing.
They're like ideal because you're not responsible for anything, like any social obligations or any operational obligations of like the vehicle.
Exactly.
Yeah. If anything, it would be abhorrent for you to turn to the person next to you and start talking. Like, no, please. We're God, sitting like brushing shoulders, but I need you to pretend I don't exist.
Exactly. Yeah, because when I listen to music, it's like I'm in only two modes. I'm either in work mode, right? Which, I guess I didn't say so in my intro, but that's fine. Now people are way too deep in this episode. But my day job is to compose TTRPG and book music, right? So if I'm listening to music, I'm in either work mode, which is either research or just, dissecting whatever it is I'm looking at apart. Or I need this music so that I can drown out the constant composing in my head mode. Which is why I don't like, driving. Cause I do need music playing so I can drown out the composing that's happening in my brain constantly. But also, I would also like to enjoy the music. So, the act of driving itself kind of, puts a damper on
negates you being able to like sit and enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm not always able to like fully lock into like a great maladaptive daydream state when I'm driving alone, but when I do, it's great because those like long drives like from Houston to Austin, it's like, oh cool, an hour and a half has gone by and I wouldn't know the difference. Just like another like I don't know who's been operating this vehicle safely.
Wow. I'm jealous. I'm like fully
but I can't
conscious.
I can't always do that. And like sometimes the difference of like listening to podcasts.
I'm a conscious driver, but it is fully like two different parts of my brain that can be going at the same time and not like interfering with each other. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite projects that you've done as far as like composing for either artists with CFG or but?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I would say chronologically, not even chronologically. I would say as a whole, anything where I get to blend genres, specifically if I get to sort of get in touch with my heritage, with the Asian instruments, the Chinese music, right? And if I could blend that with, Western orchestra, maybe stick a little bit of EDM in there as well, put a trap beat over it, like that's my shit. That's my jam. So I would say, now I would say chronologically, with that being said, favorite projects are probably going to be, this was pro bono. Like I didn't do this for money. It's all clout, baby. But I wrote a theme for, Marisha Ray's character in Critical Role Bo, in campaign 2.
I've heard that. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. For those of you who haven't, it's on YouTube. It's as big as you think it's going to be. None of the instruments are real because I do everything digitally, including the choir. So I think it was one of my first times that I actually got my digital choir to sing like lyrics and molded it to what I want them to sing. So I had them singing, I turned it into a Kyrie, which for people listening who don't know is a traditional Catholic, song or a poetic format within Mass. I believe it's number 2 or number 3. It's after the Introitus. But yeah, the Kyrie, the full lyric is Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison. So it's, God forgive me, Christ forgive me, right? So I made Bo's theme into that because Bo was tied to, the Cobalt Soul.
Yeah.
Right? And I wrote it like right kind of like in the first third of campaign 2. So like she was still sort of like discovering a lot of the sort of more divine aspects of her monkhood. Yep. Right? So I made it into a Kyrie. But instead of, Christe eleison, cause like Christe doesn't exist in Exandria.
Jeebus Christ.
Yeah, Jeebus Christ don't exist. So I made it I made it her god, Ayun. So it was Kyrie eleison, Ayun eleison, Ayun eleison.
Nice.
Yeah, to keep it within the world.
Lore accurate, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so this piece does rank up there because I got to make my digital non-human choir say the things that it needed it to say. And if you listen to the song, there's actually more lyrics in there. I just don't remember what they are now. It's been years.
Yeah.
And then after that, I would say, next favorite thing probably gonna be, for those of you who follow me, you might know that I collaborate with OBP Musical sometimes. And so I do a lot of stuff with them, and it's very vocal heavy. So I think it'd be one of my first vocal pieces in them. Probably It's Never Winter, which is somewhere. I think it's on SoundCloud. But it's like a toss a coin to your Witcher style tavern, ditty.
I love that.
Yeah, it was real fun to do, real fun. It was just so simple in terms of the arrangement. And yeah, so, doing something like that was super fun. And then
our editor Kay also used to work with them.
Really?
She worked with them a lot, and then I've been like back and forth in DMs with them, both like on my personal and
nice.
And now Table Talk.
Nice. Yep. Heck yeah. So you know.
yeah, I'm aware.
Heck yeah. And then honestly, I treat every single one of my projects as like my baby. So, it's really, it's hard to choose, but just going off of recency, in terms of like just fun level, I'm probably going to say that the theme music I did for Tank Tolman, for his first D&D character, and he played a dwarf. It was either barbarian or a fighter. I think it was barbarian. And yeah, straight up just asked me to do Viking music. I'm just like, I got you, bro. And just hours of me locked in my room, just doing like throat singing, just,
incredible,
layering it on top of each other. And yeah, no, that project was super, super fun. Yeah. And then just my current one right now that I'm doing with, Infinite Stories. Quick plug, I guess.
Yeah.
They're a new TTRPG platform that are poised to come out this year. And with a focus on like providing art and writing and music by real artists, like humans, as opposed to AI, to DMs and players. The sort of cool thing about this platform is that it's really its search engine. That's kind of its sort of unique selling point, I think. And that is, instead of using like keyword searching, like everyone else, it uses kind of the same predictive paradigms of AI. But it's not mashing art together. It's not, scraping anything. It's literally just taking that, sort of.
It's just retrieving,
quote unquote, exactly, and applies it to the search.
Gallery.
Exactly. So, for example, if you make a digital painting, right, and in the background you put like it's a portrait, and in the background is like a prop, a little prop, right, and someone searches, for something that is related to that prop, your art piece might still pop up because the quote unquote AI has also seen that prop is there. Yeah, and it'll just, it's a way to like provide you with alternative options for pieces of art. Stuff that you might not thought about. And it literally just like, it's meant to just make it easier for people to, find assets that they want to use. I believe they're also doing like battle map, VTT stuff as well, which is super cool. But yeah, so,
That's cool.
I'm doing music right now, the sort of first wave of music for them. They're definitely wanting to bring on more musicians, and like, I'm so stoked to finally start a band.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No, I don't know. I'm just joshing.
No,
Yeah.
manifest it. Put it
Yeah,
out
okay,
into the
okay,
universe.
fair.
Not
All
a
right, all right.
phase.
We're gonna start a band. We're gonna start a band. But yeah, I'm currently doing music for them. The stuff that I've recently posted on Threads, the sort of more trap beat EDM stuff, that's the main theme for the platform. It's very League of Legends. And then, obviously because it's TTRPGs, any platform has their like in-house setting. So currently all that Asian stuff I'm posting is like tied to that as well. And then some. There'll be a lot more too. But yeah, like, so just recency effect only because it's like dominating my life right now. Yeah, this is one of my favorite projects to be a part of.
Yeah, I love that. And I've also seen like that you've made like a bit of effort, especially like on Threads to find more like Asian creators to connect to. And then
Yes.
I've been on a whole kick of like Desi Quest right now
Mm-hmm.
and loving it because it's amazing and so well produced. And I grew up in like a predominantly Hindu neighborhood, so it's bringing back a lot of memories for me because a
Nice,
lot of my
nice.
friends growing up were Hindu.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, this is good fucking shit. And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
like got into a whole kick where I was like, I got really inspired by that in the sense of like, God, I want a like kind of similar concept, but for like a Latin based like homebrew world for a lot of
Yes.
like Latin American countries because I'm Venezuelan.
Mhm.
And like I remember at one point with Roll D5, Ondoin like had messaged me that they were gonna have like an all Spanish speaking cast.
Mhm.
And there's elements of that where I was like, I got a little self-conscious and my initial reaction was no, because like I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was really young. So like my Spanish is not as good
Yeah.
as like a lot of my family. Like I still speak it fluently, but I
Yeah.
definitely have like a little bit of an accent, and it's like a point of being self-conscious. So like the idea of putting that out publicly.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yo,
terrifying to me.
that's valid as fuck.
But it would also be like a really cool way to reconnect with my culture, and I'm sure I'm not the
100%,
only one
dude.
that feels that way.
Yeah, 100%. No, listen, I get that because I'm from Hong Kong originally. Born and raised. This is not my original accent. I went to British school, so I spoke like I do in D&D. But now I speak like this. But that said, yeah, no, I mean, I lived there for 18 years. I've been here in the States for 11. And I can barely speak the language now. Like I have trouble remembering how to order McDonald's. Like, and the words that I do remember, when I'm speaking with my parents, I can audibly hear my own accent coming through. I did not have an accent before. Now I do. Like, and like all of my, friends and family from back there are just like, yeah, white boy speaking. Like you, you have accent now. I'm just like, oh no. But yeah, no, I get that. So like, yeah, don't feel bad. And also like, yeah, great way to reconnect. I think, part of the reason why I like just love composing, Asian and Chinese music so much is because I think I, quote unquote, kind of lost that connection in my, in coming here for schooling, but also like I, grew up in British school. I grew up sort of as a, third culture kid. And so like I only just kind of like through the composition reconnected with my roots. And even then it's still, a bit of a struggle because, and this is probably a different podcast because freaking, You talking about?
Hey,
you talking about?
Go
we're
into
queens of
it.
segueing into completely different
We love,
subjects.
listen, we love to psychoanalyze ourselves and other people. Go for it.
Okay. But diving right back in, I mean, you know, like, we're talking about like the sort of similar yet vastly different experiences of both immigrants, what, you know, depending on different generations, first generation, second generation, third generation immigrants, or you know, people that were born here, right? So like there's this whole like contention between, you know, who's a better Asian Americans or immigrant Asian, you know, or like people who stayed in Asia, right? Motherland people. So it's so, it is interesting and it's also very daunting and scary and also, ultimately so validating to like finally kind of navigate that, can of worms, as to speak. Yeah. And then, which is why, you know, that's why I'm writing, Generation of Heroes with my childhood best friend, Terrence. You know, just trying to tell Asian stories, you know, in a predominantly Western medium.
That's cool. That's
I
cool
love
as hell.
that. Yeah. I think one of the things I love a lot too is that like as this hobby has been growing, and obviously like representation is pretty important because it is like has been a predominantly like white male dominated sphere, and it's begun to break out of that as like TTRPGs in general and Dungeons and Dragons have received more and more popularity. You know, representation and things like that are important. And then that's why we have things like Desert Quest, for example. And like, I remember when On had approached me about that, like all Latin like game, I was like, my initial reaction was no, because I was like, I'm petrified of the idea of like potentially speaking Spanish behind a screen in front of other people that are, you know, because again, same thing, like amongst my family, you know, I went through a stage where I stopped speaking Spanish, even though my whole family spoke Spanish at home, because I was thrust into an American school. Like I started in a bilingual school, but then I came home speaking like a Mexican girl, and my mom was not having it. So not that there's anything wrong with that, but we do have different slang and different things that we say. And I live in Texas, so you know.
Hey, what's up, fellow Texan? Let's go, baby.
That's a whole. Are you in Texas too?
Yeah.
Both Ollie and I are as well. I live in Austin.
Dude, let's go. I'm in DFW.
Okay, nice. There you go. Well, we're all equidistant of each other, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool.
Because Texas
I like 100, not 100%, but like I like related to that story so much more now. Continue.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, you know, she took me out of there because I was like coming home saying Monday and shit like that. Not that's wrong. She was just like, well, we don't do that. No.
It's like that's the wrong culture.
Yeah, so she took me out of there. And I also wasn't like learning English, which was her main thing, was like to kind of segue me into English. But at that school, it's like everyone just speaks Spanish.
Right.
So she took me out, put me, and I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. It's called the Woodlands. It's very bougie.
Oh yeah. No, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So like it was very much like I'm one of the very few like like Latin people at my school, and even then I'm very white passing. So it was just you know. And
you're spicy white.
I'm spicy white. And so I dropped Spanish for a good period of time. Like I understood it, but I just wasn't speaking it at home. And then eventually, you know, as it does, it's like, yes, I understand it and I can speak it, but then I forget certain words and my accent and whatever. And like my family would tease me about it. So then it's like even more negative reinforcement to not speak it. And like I really only started picking it back up once I started working, because obviously speaking another language is a big asset in the workforce, especially in Texas. So I started speaking it a lot more through work and still use it. And like that's honestly one of the only reasons I probably never lost it permanently. But yeah, it's still like a point of being self-conscious, but I would love to find ways to connect to my culture with other people, especially if it's something in this hobby that I love. But like when I had the idea for, like I would love to do something similar to DesiQuest. I was like, the only real scope of it, I was like, would I be DMing it? And then I was like, like that terrified me even more.
Yeah.
Because I'm like I've always felt like disconnected from our culture. Like we've had a lot of ways in which we've kept it within my family.
Yeah.
But like I'm really, even my younger cousin got to spend more time in our country than I did because he came here when he was like around 10 or so, and then they had to go back for a year before they came back to stay permanently. So like I'm the only person in my family that didn't get to grow up there. And so that's hard for me. And like I would love to reconnect because it's one of those situations of like I don't even get the option to go back.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I mean, all of my cousins, I think one's still in Canada, but, oh, wait, no. I'm a bad Asian, I suck at math. Okay, so I'm a musician.
So
Okay, 2 of them are in Canada, but everyone else is back in Hong Kong. And I feel that because, like, a lot of us did go abroad for college, but then everyone else went back. And some people didn't even leave. So like, yeah, I feel that plus like only one other of my cousins like went to the same British school that I did. But like, yeah, like she connected with like our sort of quote unquote, not even expat, but like transplant culture a lot easier than I did because like, she went to 1st to 6th grade, I think, in like Canada, and then came back and then stayed, right? But I was always in British school. And so I was like, I've grown up feeling out of place. Like I was never white enough and never Asian enough. But yeah, like I feel that because like what you just said, because it's like, yo, I never got to reconnect as early as y'all did, but also I never got to really grow up in it either. So yeah, that resonates a lot with me.
Yeah. And I think like I've had this conversation with Mariah, like I want, since we've started this podcast and we started about 6 months ago, and it's funny because even I like realized it after a certain point, I was like, most of our guests have been white.
Yeah.
And I was like,
you said it to me and I was like, no, you're 1000% right. And like, we've had another like neurospicy people, but other than that, that's about it. As far as
it's like a Friday night at Billy Bob's.
Pretty much. And I'm like, even at one point we started joking. I'm like, we've had like 3 Ryans on this show back.
There was a bit where I was confused about, I had to make sure I was clicking the right folder with the correct Ryan. Because we recorded 3 of them in one weekend, and I was like, this is too much.
There's too many Ryans, and we're collecting too many. But yeah, and so at one point I was like, I want to make more of an effort to not only connect with like more Latin like creators, but just in general, like I want to highlight those voices because like the space is changing, and that deserves to be represented.
100%.
And in that search, because I think at one point I also made a post where I was like when I was considering coming onto that like Latin actual play, I was like, are there any like other like Latinx actual plays that I can go listen to just kind of like
get
immerse myself, not just in the language, but also like the language we use in TTRPGs in my own.
Because that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different thing. And so I want to like, get that. And so like I had one, it was crickets. So I was like, that sucks. And then
like that's a different problem.
Trying to do my own research. And it also sucks because it's like I did my own research. I found one that I started listening to for a while. But it's also like half the guys that are in there are speaking like Spain Spanish. So I'm like, I can't do this lisp. I'm so sorry. This is an accent that I can't tolerate for extended periods of time when I'm trying to learn. Yeah, no, I can't do this.
It's very different. Yeah. Like,
I bet.
Castilian Spanish and Latin
100%.
American Spanish are almost different languages.
We're different from country to country. It's hard
yeah.
Truly.
because like
Yeah.
Even Puerto Ricans, like, love Puerto Ricans. I can't understand you.
They speak a different language.
I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
so different.
No, I feel that. That's why I'm from Hong Kong. I'm not from the mainland. So like I die a little on the inside when someone says, "Oh my God, do you speak Chinese?" And I'm just like, yeah, yeah, sure.
Like, what do you mean when you say that? What's your definition?
Yeah, what do you mean
Yeah.
Chinese?
Of Chinese? Like Chinese TM or like a specific like
And I've
subdomain.
worked through my internal racism, so like I'm cool. But like just to all the people that are listening out there, if you're thinking about asking someone you suspect is Chinese if they speak Chinese, and if they're older, I'm gonna say maybe older than 40, 45. Don't. Because you might get a very unhinged response. I.e. like, what do you mean Chinese, huh? You mean the correct Chinese or the dirty Chinese?
Oof. Yeah.
Oh my God. No, I've gotten many times do you speak Mexican? And I'm like,
no.
mm-hmm.
God almighty.
Yep.
I would hear like,
it means so
in my
something
very
so
white
different,
school.
right?
Yeah. And I'm like, why must we say that? Like, Jesus Christ.
Yep. No, I get it.
Yeah.
It means something so different if like a white person asks you that as opposed to like another Latino person asking you that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, no, you're asking me if I am from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, like, other Latinos will never be like, yeah, do you speak Mexican? No.
Yeah, probably not.
Like,
No, they would not be
they know
called
you
dead.
speak Spanish. They're going to ask you which area you're from. And like, the one point of pride I do have is that even amongst other Latinos, they'll hear me talk and they'll be like, oh, you're Venezuelan. And I'm like, you have no idea how much you've just done for me in this moment, because my whole family will laugh at me. But the fact that other Latinos can recognize that I have some semblance of a Venezuelan accent, that's validating. That hits home.
Yeah. Honestly, I love that. I love that for you. But as much as like Asians like to brag, like we absolutely suck at telling each other apart. I'm gonna just say, like, so like to further add to my like identity crisis, right? Like I keep getting mistaken as being anything other than Chinese. And I'm just like, okay, great. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's worse when it's people from your own culture. It's like, friends, please.
Yeah. No, seriously. Every time I DJ like a Chinese wedding, they're like, are you Japanese? Are you Korean? I'm just like, nope, like, I'm one of you guys. Yeah. And it's like extra funny when I DJ like a Korean wedding and they're just like, are you Korean? And I'm just like, nope, Chinese.
Very much not. Very much not. Thank you.
Yep, I'm good. Yep.
We're 5 deep into countries before you get it right.
Okay. Yeah.
Good. That's incredible. I remember, and this is something like I'll run it by you because especially on the subject of like about the like multicultural and like reconnecting and things like that.
Yeah.
I listened to an episode of Office Hours with Dr. C. It's a podcast. It's really good. But he recently had an episode with a couple of different creators, including like Justin on TikTok and stuff, and then like Tally and Nerdy. And they were talking a lot about like diversity and also like especially being like Black in these like nerdy spaces. And I think Tally is the one that mentioned this, but they mentioned how they have a long time running homebrew game where they've invited like guests to come on, and it's always guests of like different cultures. And so the only thing he asks as a requirement to come play at his table is that you build some part of the world out like with what your culture is.
Oh yeah.
So the whole world has become this thing where like different cities and different regions are based around like the cultures of the people that have come to play.
Yeah.
That's dope.
And I was like, oh, I love that idea so much.
That's
and
amazing.
I would love to like run a game where there is that like multicultural inspiration, but it comes from someone genuinely in that culture.
Is this like a home game or is this like streamed?
I think it's a home game. I don't know if it's streamed. I'll have to double check.
Case in point to what I'm about to say next, but continue.
Yeah. But I loved that concept, and I was like, that would just be so cool.
Yeah.
To go play in.
100%. Yeah, I think, as a space, like, for the most part, we're very progressive people, right, in the TTRPG space. That said, I think, while there are some, like, good pockets here and there with, you know, you said Tally, their game?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, the little pockets here and there, like Tally's game, where, you know, other cultures are being explored even within an already quote unquote minority culture. So far from what I've heard, and of course, like, you know, if anyone listening has heard otherwise, get in the fucking comments, and educate me. But also, like, that sentiment is still very much confined to the home game, the private game. It's not quite made it to content. It's not quite made it to streaming. It's not like publicly known at large. So right now, I think we're still at that like stage of TTRPGs being not only a escape, i.e. being a game, but also like a form of expression, a form of, you know, media consumption, you know, something, or art even. That we're still at that stage where it, you know, minority culture and just representation is still very much just tokenized. Like we're still firmly in that stage right now. Not gonna name names, but there were some big ones out there that are predominantly vanilla and only ever have, or up until recently, like I say the last 3 years, but up until recently have only ever had like 1 or 2 specks of Oreos coming on or a banana coming on, you know? Oh yes, all the food analogies for
the flavoring.
Yes.
The flavoring.
In the shelf.
The ice cream flavoring.
Not on the dish.
Exactly. But yeah, so yeah, we're still very much tokenized at the moment. And I think yeah, stuff like you know, Daisy Quest, you know, Asians Represent is another one out there. It's been a while since I've last listened to them, but when I did, and this was like in, I don't know, 2017, 2018, you know, they were out there, you know, just rolling dice, fighting monsters, but you know, they were some badass Chinese folklore monsters or East Asian folklore monsters.
Yeah, that's sick.
So, you know, we need, I want to say, hey, we need to have like, and I'll just speak to like, you know, I'll stay in my lane and I'll say like, for example, we need to have an Asian, centric actual play that doesn't just talk about fucking Asians. You know what I mean? Like, you look at like our real life history. There were Africans in Asia, in ancient Asia. There were Caucasians in ancient Asia. There, even amongst all the different shades of yellow, there's so many. Okay? So it's like, you know,
it's diversity as a baseline versus as a
exactly.
Where it's like, just like, yes, have a diverse culture because that's
yeah. And also don't fetishize it by turning it into just another fantasy race. You know? But like, as much as it kind of circling back, as much as I would love to say, let's have those, I think, and this might be my 30-year-old brain talking, but just reality check, I don't think we're there yet. I think there are people that are itching to make it happen, but unfortunately, and also circling even further back to your previous question or point about, yes, TTRPGs is still very much a very white dominated space. And, you know, unfortunately for a lot of us creatives, it means we have to play to the market, and currently the market is not quite ready.
Not quite there yet.
Yeah. And that sucks. And also, I don't know how to fix it. I'm just the music guy. I'm the bard. I am not the, I'm not the paladin in this situation. But yeah, I think that's where we are right now is, we're still tokenizing minorities and, oppressed peoples. Yeah, I think we should be, I would like within my lifetime to see us reach that next step. And, when I hear about a new podcast or a new stream or a new actual play, right? It's like, oh, cool. Or not, but, I would be less surprised. I would love to be less surprised when I learn that, it's Asian or it's Latino or it's South Asian or African or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I have forgotten the question.
I think going back to, you're good. We ramble. I think back to like what you had said too, of like that element still being confined to the home game. It's also hard to, it's hard to, as much like as I would love to build that kind of game and produce it the way that I would want to produce it and put it out into the world. Unfortunately, you're fighting what is more palatable to the majority, right? And putting yourselves out there at that level of representation. Like DesiQuest is amazing in what it's doing, but it also has some really powerful like backers that have made it what it is. Like Dimension 20 and Critical Role and Hero Forge and so many others are like on the list of people that have backed and supported it becoming the level of production that it is. So it's hard for the common person that doesn't have all those resources to make it and produce it to the level and degree that would be interesting for the masses to join in on.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you'll still get a following, but it'll be smaller and like it'll be a harder fight to grow it. And obviously you're opening yourself up to a lot of like the less savory parts of the internet that don't like the changes that are happening within the space.
Yeah. It's always a particular kind of person that gives us the backlash. I will say this, it's also especially hard for us, right? Because not only are we trying to like sort of not balance is not the right word, but quote unquote make palatable our content to the market, but also like we carry a lot of weight and judgment from our own people that we have to represent quote unquote correctly, even though one can make the argument like, hey, art is art and I do whatever the fuck I want. But also like, it's you have that breathing down your neck and it's extra hard. So like, even though I mentioned like composing Chinese music, and genre blending is like my favorite thing to do, but like I am constantly, as I'm putting the shamisen or the guzheng or the erhu on into the orchestra, I am constantly thinking of all the, old, Master Wu Gui from Kung Fu Panda looking people out there that are going to be just saying, nope, this is not Chinese, right?
This is disgusting.
Exactly. Or even like, even people from like our age group who are also reconnecting. Even, the fear of them, even them going like, no, I don't know. It's not really what I'm, jiving with what I'm seeing. Like that's scary too. So
For sure.
yeah, it's like
I think a lot of like my big fear in that is, again, like the whole aspect of like I was mostly raised here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was in Minnesota until I was 7. So yes, I have some memories, but like most of my life has been here. Most of my life has been amongst not my own culture.
Yep.
And diving into that that dream of a project would mean like the idea of me representing my culture feels wrong, you know, in the sense of like, I don't feel like I have a leg to stand on because I wasn't raised there, and I didn't get to experience it. And like, to be fair, like that experience was robbed from me,
right.
Not by my family, but by the circumstances in which we were under that made us have to come here. And the idea of being the representation of that, and then also like, you know, I am not in touch with other like Latin cultures either. So I'm like, I can't speak for Colombians.
Right.
I can't speak for Peruvians. I can't speak for all of those. So it's hard to.
That's why you're the dungeon master and you're the bridge between, you know, the quote unquote pure culture and the quote unquote other pure culture.
Pure culture is to my table.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just the little puppet master in the background. Like, don't pay attention to me, pay attention to them.
It's like you must bring a dossier on your culture.
Yes. I'll provide the colonizers, so and then you kick them out. Cool.
And then you kick them out. Yeah. Cool. I'll play all these white people.
hey, I play D&D too. Yes, honestly, facts, hard facts.
I will play.
Exactly. Yeah. God, and like another element of that is like, I don't know, in my own like home games, I mean, we have a rule of like a lot of the isms just aren't a thing. That does not exist here. You do not come to my table to experience that. But you know, I do like to make our world very diverse, but it's never something I'm like putting a spotlight on, if that makes sense. I'm like what people look like stops at the baseline of like, this is a descriptor. This is just so you know what this person looks like, but it is not the defining thing about them. What is defining about them is like their station in life, or what they're doing, or you know, their magical abilities, or melee prowess, whatever their role is in the world outside of that fact. Because I'm like, you know, there's a lot of like interracial couples, or you know, like gay couples and whatever. And for me, in my ideal world, nobody blinks an eye. That's normal. 100% type stuff, because you don't come to my table to deal with all that real world shit.
You roll dice to fucking kill monsters, okay? And even then, maybe that's also kind of racist, but whoa.
And even then, maybe my monster is baby girl, and like, you shouldn't be trying to kill him.
Mind flare lies also matter, I guess. Maybe. That's a whole nother conversation there.
Yeah, we're just gonna clip that little bit and blast you.
Oh yeah, right, great. Aiden Dungeon Maestro gets canceled over this one little line.
for being a mind flayer stan.
It's fine. My playthrough. It's fine. My playthrough of Baldur's Gate, out of 5 times, 3 of them I have allowed myself to get turned. So yeah.
I'm rapidly heading that way, and it wasn't what I expected from my first playthrough.
I know, right?
But I made my guardian too attractive, and he's like, "Hey, you should eat these little grubby grubs." And I was like, "I sure will." There's something to do. And then it got to like the tipping, where you can kind of become like half illicit. And because I had consumed like every available larvae in my path, I had to pass a 30 wisdom check to not like, which I was incapable of doing because I play a paladin. So her wisdom is like -1. Like I can't
baby
can't
girl,
do it.
goddamn, no chance.
Yeah.
So I was just like,
Unless it's
well,
a
I
crit,
guess
you're not
this
gonna
is
get
where-
it.
Yeah, and I was like, I guess this is, and I rolled like twice, I think, and I was like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And one of the times I rolled a 1, and the other time I rolled something that wasn't a natural 20. So I was like, well, I guess this is how we're meant to be this time, and now I know this.
Yes. Yeah.
I will say with Baldur's Gate, that is one of the games that I'm like, I normally struggle to not be good, just all the way through. Baldur's Gate has really been my most chaotic experience, where I'm just doing all sorts of war crimes and like not feeling bad about it.
Hey, welcome to the Murder Hobo Club, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of like moral ambiguity in Baldur's Gate, and it makes it very apparent of like the thing of the villain depends on what side you're on. Like that is very unusual in Baldur's Gate. So it's like, well, what is? Yeah, yes, there are things where like we have our unhinged Darker playthrough where we're absolutely committing atrocities. And so there are some things where like, nah, it's black and white, whether this is good or bad.
Yeah.
There's other times where it's like, it's very gray.
100%.
Yeah. It also doesn't help the characters I want to smash are also problematic. So I'm like, well, I gotta do this because like Shadowheart's gonna hate me if I don't. So.
that little text that says Shadowheart disapproves, like, why you gotta hurt me that way? Honestly, all of them. I hate getting disapproved by
literally all
any of them. Yep. Oh, and
I'm like, if I have to go commit war crimes, Will and Karlak do have to stay home.
Yeah.
Because I can't bear with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But Astarion can come along, Shadowheart can come along, Lae'zel can definitely come along. 100%.
Yeah. When I know I'm about to do some fucked up shit, I got the problematic crew, and whenever I'm like, I'm gonna go do some good shit, I gotta bring the goodies.
Like, we're all the bad kids, but like here are the worst kids.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. They're the ones. And I like that they all sort of start in the middle.
Yeah, 100%.
Start shifting
like,
them a little bit.
Light, or like skip into the darkness with them. That was really fun.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh my goodness. Well, this time has certainly flown by, and I'm realizing we've gone over by a bit, but I've enjoyed every second.
All good.
All
just
good.
come
All
on
good
again.
Conversations.
Damn.
Oh, I guess if you'll twist my arm,
I'll have to break up the next Ryan streak.
Oh, please do. Please. We can't do any more Ryans. We're capped out on
fine.
Ryan.
You're done with Ryans. You're gonna get Brian's next. Okay.
Oh no.
It's Brian's and then Craig's
the evolution.
and then Aaron's. You know.
Chad.
Yeah, Chad's
for sure.
So
no Chads allowed. Oh my goodness.
It's an ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one valid Chad. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been such a pleasure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to remind the listeners just one more time, who you are, where they can find you, and plug any cool projects that you got coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
Go for it.
So again, I am Aiden Chan, aka the Dungeon Maestro. My day job is literally making music for TTRPGs. As well as if you're listening and you're a writer, author of any kind, because I know our communities are very tight knit. Yeah, I do music for book promos as well. That said, all my stuff you can find on, social media. I am not on Facebook anymore, so don't even go there. But, YouTube, a lot of my old stuff is there. TikTok, I haven't posted in a year, but there's some fun stuff there too. And I should really go back, but, primarily on Threads right now. And you want to, just listen to my portfolio without seeing me yammer on and on, then, you can go check out my website. That's, aidenchanmusic.com. And eventually I will get around to posting more stuff onto Spotify and all the streaming platforms too. Right now there's a few things on there, but not a lot. But you can also check out OBP Musical. they have uploaded a lot of my stuff onto Spotify and streaming platforms too. So yeah, a lot of if you want like examples of actual TTRPG music, like there you go. And currently just working on commissions. But also, as I mentioned before, doing stuff for Infinite Stories, so that new TTRPG platform with a quote unquote language model based search engine that gives you real art by real people, as well as music and writing, and is going to be launching sometime this year. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just kind of the resident bard for, our people. Ding. If there was video, I'd be smiling and like putting my hands up to my chin and being like, ding, right now.
I love that. We'll have to bring you back on whenever we actually do have video going.
Yeah, nice, cool. I was like cleaning my room frantically, but I was like, hold on, maybe we don't have video, so it's good. There's like clothes on the floor and shit.
Soon we will.
Cool. Yeah, just let me know then, and then I'll just like probably put a backdrop on behind me.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And thank you guys for listening to another episode of Table Talk, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
All right, we'll see you then. Bye.
Table Talk is a podcast brought to you by Mythos Media Productions, bringing you a new episode every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on Instagram and TikTok at Table Talk RPG, or check us out at our website, mythosmediaproductions.godaddyscites.com. All business inquiries can reach out to us via email at info@mythosmediaproductions.com.